In the personal defense and firearms worlds, some people will tell you that training is not very important, and some will tell you that you must train all the time. So who's right? I'll give you my thoughts on this episode of Tactical Tidbits. Hello again, friends. I'm Herman Morris of Alpha One Tactical. Please remember to like, comment, share, all that good stuff so you can help me help as many people as possible. All right. So what's the deal with training? In the last quarter century or so of being involved in personal defense, as well as being exposed to firearms since I was a child, I've come across a lot of different opinions about this topic, and especially over the last decade since I've become an instructor. Unfortunately, many of the most recognized personalities in this space fall in one extreme or the other. Well, I think that both sides have some valid points here, and that's why I created Alpha One, to address the concerns of both of these camps, because I've experienced both of them as both a student and as an instructor. But even before I go any further into this, I want to make a point of clarification first. In this conversation, when I mention training, I'm strictly speaking about formal training, not practice. I'll refer you to my video on the different categories of training if you don't already know them. All right? Okay, so what is each side saying, and what do they get right and what do they get wrong, at least in my opinion? Well, both of these camps are operating on a couple of naivetes. The training maximalists hold that everyone should make their safety and that of their families a priority, and as such, should be spending as much time and money as possible training. So what's wrong with that? Well, while they're correct in pointing out that safety of oneself and their loved ones should be a priority, it's also unrealistic to believe that most regular people will make this a top priority that will take a significant amount of time and resources away from other priorities and passions. Consider that many of the people in this side of the equation offer classes that are quite expensive and that closely resemble the kinds of training that they took in the military or law enforcement. Now, that intimidates a lot of people and further perpetuates the belief on the part of most normal folks that adequate personal defense requires training like a special forces soldier or mixed martial arts fighter. In other words, training constantly and intensely. Because of this, most people simply put aside the issue and just hope that they'll never find themselves in a violent encounter. The training minimalists, on the other hand, posit that the concepts and movements behind both shooting or self-defense are simple enough that one can practice them on their own, so there's no need to spend a lot of time or money on training, right? They usually actually point to examples of some individuals who are very proficient in martial arts or weapons handling, who are almost 100% self-taught, or examples of people with little to no training fighting off bigger, stronger opponents as arguments against formal training. So as such, they propose that tactical training, or training in general, is overrated and does not provide a good return on investment. So what's wrong with this approach? I think this approach, or this idea, is just a very simplistic view of how violence works and how the human body works and reacts under stress. Just because there are many outliers who have been able to successfully defend themselves in a violent encounter, without any training, it doesn't guarantee that you will also rise to the occasion. In fact, all we are trying to accomplish as personal defense coaches is to increase the probability that you will rise to the occasion and therefore increase your survivability. How that's accomplished is what differs between schools and instructors, and that's where I do find some middle ground with the training minimalists. As the maximalists claim, Personal defense should be a priority. But the minimalists are right to point out that there should be a better return on investment in doing so. So how do I bridge that gap? Well, for starters, I've organized Alpha One as a cost-effective method of training frequently, not constantly, and in a setting that is congruent with a regular person's lifestyle and needs. In other words, people who are looking to stay out of trouble, as opposed to training for people who are paid to go looking for trouble, such as military and law enforcement personnel. In addition, by focusing on simple gross motor skills, we're able to build neural pathways for body movements in a way that does not require training several days a week. It's usually enough to train once or twice a month, supplemented by the students practicing on their own. Now, this is something that is sustainable all year long. Compare that to having to budget for one or two classes a year that will cost thousands in and of themselves, and then on top of that, travel, food, lodging. Okay, well, ultimately, it's all about prioritizing. If you find yourself not putting any effort into your safety, you're wrong. If you have the time and money to train as if you're trying to become a Tier 1 operator, good for you. But if you fall anywhere in between those two, come check us out. Come train with us all year long in a setting that conforms with your needs as a civilian and that's cost effective. I hope to see you in the classroom or the range soon, and I'll definitely see you on the next episode of Tactical Tidbits.